All right, now a lot of games recently seem to be centred around PMCs, and that's private military corporations. You've had Army of Two with their private group that kills things. You've also had the upcoming Metal Gear Solid, who's going to, cover that very heavily. The other one is Haze. Now, Haze has probably received a little bit of a panning from the critics. I honestly don't think it's as bad as they do. So we'll get down to some stuff first, and then we'll cover just exactly what I think was okay about it. Now, you play the game as Shane Carpenter, probably the most annoying main character since Call of Juarez. Yes, little Billy in Call of Juarez gave me the shits, as does Shane Carpenter. And he starts off as a Mantel troop, dosed up on nectar, seeing the world in this stylized, like you don't see dead bodies. The nectar converts their senses, so they don't see dead bodies, they can't see blood, they can't see the people's pain. As soon as someone dies, they just disappear off their radar. Halfway through the game, something happens, and you start fighting for the other side. So you no longer have the nectar, and you can see the world for what it really is. People writhing around in pain, bleeding out, screaming. And the funny thing is seeing your once compatriots. Their faces, they just look like heroin addicts. It's like walking down the street in Croydon. They've just got pock marks and just stuff everywhere. And they look like just real junkies. And it really makes a good point about, the over-medication and stuff like that. The problem is the execution is very flawed. Now, while some of the speeches they make, especially from the rebel leader and stuff like that, are very, what would be the word? I don't know, compelling. Some of the other stuff just drives you crazy. Like the two guys you fight with are real meatheads, and I understand they're going for that stereotype, but they were real meatheads. Like just couldn't even stand to be in the same room as them or in a cutscene with them meatheads. Plus the guys you actually fight with, they say the same crap over and over again. If I hear the terms, Shaw beats up out of pumping gas, I think I'm going to shoot someone, and which is lucky because I'm playing a shooting game. So I'm going to get down to some scores now and give you an idea of just what was good and bad about this game. Now the visuals are very much, considering this is a PS3 exclusive, and exclusives normally mean that you're going to take your time to bring everything you can out of a system. I really hope this isn't everything they can get out of the PS3. I know it's not, but I mean, I understand the whole haze aspect. It really does look foggy. I think that might be part of the aesthetic they were going for. But this was in 720p, and I swear it probably looked the same as it would on a cathode ray tube. Just there's something very generic, jungle backgrounds. The faces are well animated. I'll give that much. The actual character models are fairly good, but everything else just leaves a lot to be decided. And the way the cars look when they're driving, they just leave up this big puff of what looks like water. Everywhere they drive, it looks like they're just driving through water. There's a big puff of water coming out the back. And so the visuals on this one, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 10. Now the sound, as I say, the speeches and stuff are fine. Duval, who is one of the main characters in the game, I particularly like he was a real, alpha male, the evil incarnate of Brucey from GTA. I really liked him and the whole voice acting from that side of it. But then when you come to the actual guys who fight with you all the time, as I say, if I hear the words pumping gas again, there's just going to be issues. So the sound, for all the good that it does so much bad. I'm going to give the sound a 6 out of 10. Now the gameplay, this honestly wasn't as bad as people were saying that it was. The shooting might be a little bit generic, and nectar might be a little bit of a, a gimmick. But realistically, there's worse games out there, and this is no worse than Turok was. A lot of people gave Turok 7.5s and 8s, and I don't know, it was no worse than Turok was. The guns were a fair bit more accurate, and the different powers that both sides of the fight had kind of made it unique. At the same time, though, the nectar was pretty much, a gimmick when it comes down to it. So the gameplay, look, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I honestly didn't mind it that much, and that's really saying something. But when you combine it all together, the package just leaves a lot to be decided. This is not a case, as I normally say, this is not a case where the whole is more than the sum of its parts. This was a game that was a great idea, let down terribly by the execution. Now, whether that was from Ubisoft pushing, or whether it was by Free Radical getting ahead of themselves and not doing it properly, I'm not sure. But there was a game here, and it was going to be fantastic, but it just lost its way along the way. So I'm going to give the game all up a score of 6 out of 10. So I think it's time to go down to Croydon and check out them Haze addicts.